Hi, this is Steve Hosher with RazorGage, and today I'm going to talk about the AutoList screen in RG3. Um, to get there, you click the AutoList tab. Now, this looks like there's a lot going on here, and it does have a lot of functionality, but it's simple to use. Um, right now, I have this software set up as a Razor Optimal, so I'm going to go into Settings and change it. Actually, I have to put in the password. I'm going to save it to just no IO because it changes the way the screens look. All right, so the first thing to know about AutoList is you can run it in pusher mode or stop mode, and you can switch back and forth between the two. So right now it's in pusher mode. I'm going to switch it to stop mode. Now, the next thing you do is open a file. Okay, now here is a folder full of lists. You can see there are some R3D files. Here's this RG3 mapping.db file, and then we have CSV files and R3D files. So if I sort those by name, CSV files are usually the files that are exported from your software, comma separated values. R3D files are the files we convert those files into. So if I select a CSV, so this one is this tank active orders 1123.7. Now, it looks like these are all the same, but they're actually little variations in most cases. So when I select a CSV, it's going to convert it as it opens it. Took a little longer. Now, that was this tank active orders 7-copy. So if I close it, now that one is an R3D file. It's not a CSV file anymore. So it was converted from a CSV to an R3D file. That's our database file. Now you don't have to really worry about all this. I just want to explain what's going on. And so the reason it knows how to convert that is because of this file right here, RG3 mapping. This has all the mapping and label printing and sorting data in it. And that determines, that has to be there in order for the file to be converted on the fly like that. It has to be there in order to open these R3D files. So whatever folder you're opening your files from, that folder has to have this RG3 mapping file. Now, you can have multiple folders with different cut lists, and each one can have a different RG3 mapping. So that's if you had cut lists that were different formats, we would create an RG3 mapping for each different format. And as long as all the files in the folder with this are the same format, it'll convert them. Now, if the RG3 mapping file is not there, as would be the case if you had one format and you wanted to store your files in multiple folders, rather than having to copy this to every folder, and maybe you change the folders every day, so every day you're having to copy this file to the folder, you can leave it out altogether and store it in the default mapping folder, which is the C:(cutlists custom folder. So you can put your mapping file there, and then if it's not present in the folder with your cut lists, the software is going to automatically look here and use this one. So that's how that works. But really, as far as using the software, once you have all this stuff set up, and so this all kind of sounds complicated, but here's the process. You'll send me your CSV file. I will create this file and send it back to you. You put it in the folder that you're going to open your cut list from, and you're ready to go. If you're using RZG files, then you're just going to store your files in this Cutlist RZG file that is created when we install RG3 software. So many of our customers use RZG files, so we just create this folder on the C drive and we put the RG3 mapping file in it. So if you're doing RZG files, all you have to do is store your cut lists in this folder, and then when the operator opens it from that folder, it gets converted using this RG3 mapping file that's already there. So for RZG files, all you do is store your files in Cutlist RZG, tell the operator to open the files from that same folder, and everything works. That's all you have to do, is just put them in that folder and it works. If you aren't using RZG, then you send us the file. We create the mapping file. You put it in the folder you want to open your files from, and then it works. So fairly easy. Okay, so I'm going to open one of these R3D files. All right. All right, so the way to use AutoList, well, first I'll talk about the groups. When AutoList opens a cut list, it sorts it into groups. You can see those groups in this Groups tab. Here are all the groups. In this case, the parts are all grouped by parts of like tank material. The way you can set that is over here in grouping options, group by tank material. If I want to group by tank material and component, I'll add component, save it, and now I have a lot more groups and fewer parts in each group. Now if I go to the group screen, you can see now I have tank material column, component column. So each of these groups have parts that have like tank material and like component. And then this shows the quantity of parts in each group and the number of inches it takes to cut those. And this value doesn't include kerfs or trim cuts or anything or defects. So you'll need a little more material than that, but it gives you an idea. So as you can see, we've got way more groups and less in each group. So I'm going to switch it back to get rid of component and save. And now we have fewer groups with more parts in each group. So when you open a cut list, it sorts it into groups. The Groups tab allows you to select which group you want to use. And that's kind of how it works. Column display allows you to hide columns and show columns. So if you want to don't want order number, let's see what we got here. Let's say you don't want order number to show up at all. So we go here, we go order, send it over there, update. Now I go back to the thing and order number isn't there. If I want to show it again, I put it back. Let's say I want order to be next to quantity. I can move it up. And now order is right here and before quantity. So that's how column display works. The All Parts tab shows you all the parts in the cut list, not sorted into groups, if you for some reason want to see all those. And then the printer tab is how you set up the printer. How you set up your label, not how you set up the printer. You set up the printer in Windows using the dry instructions that came with your printer. RazorGage prints to the default Windows printer. So you set up the printer in Windows using the drivers and instructions that came with your printer, and then you enable the printer in our software, and now it's going to print to the default Windows printer. You don't have to do any setup in our software other than that. You do have to define what you want the label to look like, and you do that by filling in values in the static text fields and choosing dynamic fields. So when you do this, you can see the preview update down here. So I've got material, and then I've chosen component, and so it's showing, I assume is it showing the very first? See, that's 29.3 for a length in that first one. Length is here at the end, 5.866. So I don't know what part it's using for this preview, but you can, as you change these things, it updates in the, so you can see it shows component and then the component value, order quantity. Now you don't have to do anything with these static labels. You can use them or not use them. And you don't have to use all the different fields, but you have 12 dynamic fields you can use, and then 16 static fields that you can fill out. And as you're changing it, it all shows up in the label preview. You can change the label size here. You can, then the preview changes accordingly. You can enable printing or disable printing. You can change the font size, not the actual font, and not in this screen. And then you can choose what kind of printer you've got. There's also this custom label layout, and there'll be just one whole video just on that. This, and you have to unlock it. It's not free. But with this one, you can design the label in a very customized way. You can create fields that are different, with different text types, different text fonts, different text sizes. You can have elements with pictures and QR codes and barcodes. It's very advanced and really cool if you're into doing fancy labels. But that'll be its own video because there's so much going on there. You can print a test label here. And that's basically all there is to the printer screen. It's pretty straightforward. You can play around with it a little and figure it out. So we've gone through current group, groups, column display, all parts, and printer. How do you run the AutoList? Well, so you've opened your Cutlist and you've got a group displayed. So so we're in stop mode right now. So what it's looking for is how it's ready to optimize. So if you say I have 65 inches of clear material that I want to cut from, and then you click Fit Parts, then it optimizes, and this demo software just automatically goes through the whole optimized solution. But I'm going to do this again, and what would actually happen if I was on a real machine is the first line would be highlighted and it would move to that position. Then you would cut it, and if you have tool safe, it'll move to the next line automatically. If you don't, you have to hit Part Cut. But I'm going to click a bigger number here and say I've got 144 inches, and then fit the parts, and maybe it'll take a little longer and you can see what's going on. But it's going through all those. And as it does, it decrements the quantity. As parts get cut, it decrements the quantity, and eventually we'll get to where it crosses it out when it gets to 0. Like that. That's how you run AutoList. There are two kinds of optimization. We have exhaustive enumeration and first fit. First fit's going to take the longest part, throw it in and if that fits, it finds the next longest part. So it's more for wood guys that are very if they have a long clear span, they want to put a long part in it. If you're cutting aluminum or melamine or copper or steel, whatever, that doesn't have any defects, then you don't care whether it cuts short parts first or long parts. So you would choose exhaustive enumeration, and then that will try like 10,000 variations of different parts until it finds the best combination, and it'll use that. So in that case, you might get a lot of short parts out right at the beginning because you can put short parts together to get better yield. So those are the two kinds. For woodworking, if you've got defects, you probably don't want that checked. Otherwise, you probably do. You can restore the quantity to a line item. You can restore all. So if you got to be careful with this one. If you've been cutting all day and you click restore all and you click yes, it's going to restore all the quantities and you won't know what you've cut. So be careful with that one. And you can set the quantity. Now the original quantity always stays the same. It's this quantity column that changes. We do that so that you can monkey around with the quantities all you want, but the original quantities that we read from the cut list don't get changed. So we can always restore it. Like I can restore that one back to 5. Ooh, I don't want restore all. I mean, I could have done it there and it wouldn't have hurt anything, but I'm not cutting parts, I'm just doing a video. So that's how you do the quantity adjustment box. If you're stacking material, you can say I'm going to run 5 parts at a time. And as far as the label printing goes, if you're printing labels, you can say I want 1 label for every saw cut. That means stack. That's what stack only means. And if you click each part, then every saw cut it's going to actually print 5 labels, 1 for each part in the stack. Okay. If you don't have a tool safe sensor and you want to indicate that you've cut this part, you can just click part cut. You can also view the label that's going to get printed, and you can print it. That's so you can, if you ruin the label or something, you can go back and just view that label and print it. Now the options tab, this is more for pusher mode generally. Auto done on run complete. That means you don't have to click done after a pusher run is complete. It just goes back to the screen automatically. Always check that. There's no reason to click done, that you should have to click done. Auto fit parts loadout on run complete. So if you know that you're just going to run 8-foot sticks forever for the rest of the day, and you've got an automatic machine, you can click this, and when it gets done, it will automatically load out and fit the parts for that, whatever you've got in here for bar length, and it'll just keep running that. Defecting. If you've got a Razor Optimal and you're scanning for defects, this will push to the scan start position after it's cut all the parts out of this board. So that's nice because then you don't have to move it to scan position yourself. But if you defect out a 16-foot board and you scan it and it only finds one little 4-inch piece to cut out of the very beginning, and then it moves to scan start, it's going to push all 16 feet out the other end. And if you don't have a 16-foot outfeed table, like a lot of people don't, they have a 6 or an 8, then you want to be sure nobody's standing on in the path of that. It'll poke them. Autoloader is for a certain kind of machine that's special. Same with this. Cut history. This is what you want to show in your cut history. And show the pocket hole drill position warning. That's if you have a pocket hole machine and you want it to tell you in between whenever the width changes that you may need to adjust your pocket holes. That's what that's for. So I'm going to go back to current group and I'm going to switch to pusher mode. In pusher mode, you can see the cut history. So I'm going to run this. So I'm going to simulate running this group. So this one in pusher mode, it gives us a little more time to look things over. What that did, I'm going to go back there, cancel run. So I put in a stock length of 144. Then it looks at the parts in the current group, finds the ones that will make the best use of this bar, and it creates an optimized solution. and positions that on the board that you've got and gets ready to push it through the saw and cut it. So when I click fit parts load out, it's going to move out to the load position, and it has optimized and found that these are the parts that will make the best use of that material, which looks like it's doing great. There's hardly anything left. Then you click run and it's going to automatically run through all these. If this was an automatic saw, it would look the same, it just wouldn't do it that fast. And so it crossed off all the parts that got all the way down to 0 quantity in that group. So that's how AutoList works. Basically, you open a file, put in the clear span or the stock length, depending on if it's a pusher or a stop, and click fit parts, and then it kind of takes it from there. So that is AutoList in pusher mode. You can set the leading edge trim and the trailing edge trim. Again with the stacking. None of these other tabs change in pusher mode. This all quantity adjustment stays the same. Options. Most of the options apply to pushing mode. So they're really not useful, don't mean anything when you're in stop mode. And you switch between the two modes with this button up here. It's a little confusing because we have stop mode, pusher mode here, and then we've got switch to pusher mode here. But this one only applies to AutoList. So hopefully you can just ignore these when you're in AutoList and not get confused by that. So, all right. That's about all there is to know about AutoList. It's very powerful, but very simple to use. So, I hope this video has been helpful. If you have questions, go to our website and click the Request Technical Support button and put in your information, and we will receive that request and get right back to you. Thanks again for watching and have a great day.